buttercup. You're a puppy dog. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.
It feels like everyone's been talking about X since the election.
Yeah.
All the changes Elon Musk has been making. I mean, paid verification and all that.
It's been a lot.
And it seems like a lot of people are leaving the platform.
Yeah, definitely a lot of people jumping ship.
So today we're doing a deep dive into one platform that a lot of people are talking about as a possible alternative.
Okay.
It's called Bluesky.
I've heard of it, yeah.
And it's got this reputation for being billionaire-proof, which I gotta admit, I'm pretty curious about.
Well, it's interesting because that whole idea of being billionaire-proof really kind of gets to the heart of a bigger issue with the internet.
Oh, how so?
Well, we've all seen how some of these big platforms can end up becoming echo chambers or just totally controlled by one person's whims.
Yeah, for sure. And we saw a huge exodus from X right after the election.
I heard about that. What was it?
Over 115,000 users deactivated their accounts.
Wow, that's a lot.
And in the same time period, Bluesky saw a 500% surge in traffic. Yeah, like 1 million new users every single day.
So what is it about Bluesky that's attracting all these people?
It seems like there are a few things going on. I mean, for one, it's a brand new platform, so it doesn't have all the baggage of the older platforms.
Okay, that makes sense. People are looking for a fresh start.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I think the bigger thing is that Bluesky is offering something that's actually different. They're all about giving users control over their experience through these customizable algorithms.
Okay, so you're not just stuck with one algorithm deciding what you see.
Right. It's not like that one-size-fits-all model you see on most platforms.
So how does that work? What do you mean by customizable algorithms?
Well, imagine you're really into, ancient history.
Yeah.
With Bluesky, you can subscribe to feeds that are curated by historians, museums, archaeological societies.
So you could basically create your own little history-themed social network.
Exactly. And you can do that with pretty much anything. There are over 50,000 different feeds.
Wow. So it's less about the platform telling you what you should be interested in and more about giving you the tools to find what you actually want to see.
Exactly. And in a world where we're constantly bombarded with information,
right,
I think that kind of control is really appealing.
I can see that, and I know that Jay Graber, the CEO of Bluesky, has talked a lot about how important this whole user-centric philosophy is.
Oh, yeah. She said that giving people more control ultimately leads to a better, more engaging experience online.
Which makes sense.
And it all ties back to this idea of being billionaire-proof.
Right. We were talking about that earlier.
Yeah. So can you explain a little more about how Bluesky is structured to resist that kind of influence?
Sure. So the key here is that Bluesky isn't actually a traditional centralized platform.
What do you mean?
It's actually built as a protocol.
Okay.
More like email or the internet itself.
So it's not like a company owns and controls the whole thing.
Right. It's more like a shared infrastructure.
Interesting.
And Graber often compares it to Wikipedia.
Oh, okay.
Because it's open source and maintained by a whole community of developers and contributors.
So there's no single entity calling all the shots.
Exactly. And that makes it much harder for any one person or company to exert too much control.
It's like social media designed to be by the people for the people, as Graber puts it.
I like that.
But wouldn't that make it harder to make decisions or adapt as the platform grows?
That's definitely one of the challenges, and it's something we'll dig into more in part 2.
Okay, you've got me hooked. But before we move on, I do want to acknowledge that Bluesky is still pretty small compared to the giants out there.
Oh, for sure. 20 million users is nothing to sneeze at, but...
Yeah, it's a far cry from the billions you see on platforms like X or Threads or Instagram.
So can it really compete?
That's the big question, right? Can Bluesky find that sweet spot where it's big enough to be engaging and exciting, but not so big that it loses what makes it special?
I think that's the challenge for a lot of platforms.
Right. We've all seen what happens when they grow too fast and lose sight of what made them unique in the first place.
And we've also seen what happens when people get frustrated with the alternatives.
Yeah. You mentioned Threads and Mastodon earlier.
Yeah.
What are people saying about those platforms?
Well, it seems like there's a growing sense of disillusionment with both of them.
Really? How so?
With Threads, there are a lot of complaints about it just being filled with old content and what some people are calling engagement bait.
Oh, so posts designed to stir up controversy rather than have actual meaningful conversations.
Exactly. And then with Mastodon, the instance system can be really confusing for new users.
So people are kind of caught between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah, they want something different, something better, but they're not finding it in the existing alternatives.
And that's the gap that Bluesky is trying to fill, right?
Exactly, and it seems like they're attracting a pretty interesting crowd.
Oh, yeah. I've been reading about all these Hollywood actors and politicians and journalists joining Bluesky.
So what's drawing them to this particular platform?
Well, a lot of them talk about it having this sort of scrappy, upstart feel like Twitter back in the early days.
Oh, like a sense of nostalgia for a simpler time?
Exactly like a time before algorithms took over, and it felt more like a space for curated conversations.
I can definitely see the appeal of that.
But all this new attention hasn't come without its problems.
How do you mean?
Well, with all these new users, there have been some growing pains, site crashes, glitches, general instability.
Oh, right. The platform's struggling to keep up with demand.
Yeah, I guess even being billionaire-proof doesn't protect you from technical difficulties.
It just goes to show you that building a successful platform takes a lot more than just a good idea.
Right. You've got the technology, the community, and of course, the money.
And speaking of money, how is Bluesky planning to sustain itself financially?
That's a great question. They've said they won't have ads or data mining.
Which is admirable.
But also raises a lot of questions about how they'll actually make money.
It's a topic we'll be exploring more in depth in the next part of our deep dive.
Because their financial model is pretty unique.
It is.
And it goes back to its origins as a Twitter-funded project under Jack Dorsey.
Oh, yeah. I remember hearing about that.
Dorsey was really into the whole Web3 idea.
Right, this vision of a decentralized internet.
And it'll be interesting to see how that vision led to the creation of Bluesky and where things stand now.
Definitely, especially given Dorsey's eventual departure from the project.
Right, and all the challenges Bluesky faces in balancing its ideals with the realities of running a platform in today's digital landscape.
That's a fascinating story.
And one will continue to unravel after a quick break.
So we were talking about Bluesky's financial model.
Right, and how it's tied to Jack Dorsey and his whole vision for a decentralized internet.
Exactly. It's a pretty unconventional model.
Yeah. I mean, they've said no ads, no data mining.
Right.
So how do they actually plan to make money?
It all goes back to its origins as a project funded by Twitter when Dorsey was still in charge.
Ah, yeah. Dorsey and his Web3 dreams.
Yeah, he was really into that whole idea of creating a more decentralized internet.
Yeah.
And breaking free from the control of big tech companies.
So Bluesky was kind of an experiment to test out those ideas.
You could say that. But as with any experiment, there were bound to be challenges.
Like what?
Well, one of the biggest challenges turned out to be content moderation.
Right. Every platform struggles with that.
It's a thorny issue for sure, and it's even more complicated when you're dealing with a decentralized system that's all about user control.
I can see that because you want to give people freedom, but you also have to protect them from harassment and hate speech and all that.
Exactly. It's a tough balance, and it ultimately led to Dorsey's departure from the project.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was really committed to this idea of a completely censorship-resistant platform.
Wow, so no moderation at all.
Pretty much. But the rest of the Bluesky team felt like some level of moderation was necessary.
To create a healthier environment.
Exactly. They wanted to make sure it was a safe and inclusive space for everyone.
It's interesting how these philosophical battles play out in the tech world. Who gets to decide what's acceptable and what's not?
It's a huge question, and there are no easy answers.
And it seems like Bluesky is trying to find some kind of middle ground.
Yeah, they're walking a fine line for sure, and it'll be interesting to see how they navigate that as the platform continues to grow.
Because the bigger they get, the more diverse their user base will become.
Right, and that will inevitably lead to more challenges and more difficult decisions.
It's a good reminder that technology is only part of the equation.
Right.
We can build all the platforms we want, but ultimately it's up to us, the users, to create the kind of online world we want to live in.
I agree with that, and it brings us back to the question of sustainability.
Right. How do they actually pay the bills?
Yeah. Venture capital can only take you so far.
And they've ruled out ads and data mining.
So what's left?
Well, they've been talking about the subscription model.
Where users pay for premium features.
Yeah, things like enhanced customization options or early access to new tools.
It'll be interesting to see if people are willing to pay for that.
Especially when they're so used to getting everything for free on other platforms.
Right, it's a gamble for sure.
Yeah. But Bluesky has said that paying users won't get preferential treatment in terms of visibility or reach.
Okay, so it's not like a two-tiered system where the people who pay get more attention.
Exactly. They want to maintain that sense of community and equality.
Which makes sense. It aligns with their values.
But I keep coming back to this question of whether they can actually pull it off.
I know it's hard to be optimistic when so many other platforms have tried and failed.
Like, what makes Bluesky different?
Well, I think there's a genuine sincerity to what they're doing.
Like they actually believe in this vision of a better online experience.
Exactly. It's not just about making money. It's about creating something different, something more humane.
And in a digital landscape that often feels so negative and divisive,
Right.
that kind of idealism is really refreshing.
It's a reminder that the internet doesn't have to be this way, that we can build something better, something that reflects our values.
Yeah, I like that it's inspiring.
But it's not going to be easy.
What do you mean?
They still need to figure out how to pay their employees, how to scale their infrastructure, how to deal with all the challenges that come with growth.
Right. They need to make sure they can handle all those new users without the site crashing all the time.
It's a lot to juggle.
But even with all those challenges,
Yeah.
there's this sense of excitement around Bluesky, like something truly new is happening.
And that's worth exploring.
Absolutely. And in part 3, we'll zoom out and look at the bigger picture, the competition, the potential pitfalls, and what Bluesky's success or failure could mean for the future of social media.
It's going to be fascinating.
It's funny how this whole conversation about Bluesky keeps coming back to this idea of social media being at a crossroads.
Yeah, it really does feel that way.
Like people are disillusioned with the old platforms, but the alternatives aren't quite there yet.
Well, it's important to remember that Bluesky isn't just competing with the big guys like X and Instagram.
Right.
They're also going up against this whole new wave of platforms.
All these new platforms trying to attract those users who are looking for something different.
It really is like we're watching a whole new social media ecosystem emerge.
I like that analogy. All these different platforms evolving, trying to find their niche.
And each one is offering its own take on what a better online experience could look like.
We've talked about Threads and Mastodon, but there are so many others out there.
Yeah, there are tons focusing on everything from privacy to specific communities and interests.
So it's not just about escaping the problems of the old platforms.
Right.
It's about finding the platform that actually aligns with your values.
Exactly how you want to interact online, what's important to you.
And that's the challenge for Bluesky, right?
Yeah.
They need to convince users that their approach is the right one.
That their vision is the one worth investing in.
It's like a high-stakes popularity contest.
It really is, because at the end of the day, it all comes down to user adoption.
Right. If people don't use it, it doesn't matter how good the idea is.
And that brings us back to that question of sustainability. Can Bluesky build a big enough community to support their vision?
And can they find a way to make money that doesn't compromise their principles?
Those are the million-dollar questions.
It's hard not to be skeptical.
I understand.
So many platforms have come and gone promising to change the world.
It's true.
And most of them have fallen short. So what makes Bluesky different?
Well, for me, it's the sense that they're actually trying to do something good.
Like their intentions seem genuine.
Exactly. They're pushing back against this idea that social media has to be exploitative and divisive.
It's like a breath of fresh air, honestly.
In a world that often feels very negative and toxic.
And I think that's what people are responding to.
Yeah, they're longing for something better, something more authentic.
This idea that we don't have to be at the mercy of algorithms and billionaires.
Right, that we can create a digital world that actually reflects our values.
A world where connection and genuine interaction are more important than profits.
Wouldn't that be nice?
I have to admit there's something really inspiring about that.
It's a powerful vision, and whether Bluesky ultimately succeeds or not,
right,
they're starting an important conversation.
About what we want from social media.
Exactly, about how we can make it better, more humane.
More aligned with who we are.
It's a conversation we all need to be having.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Bluesky,
yeah,
I think the big takeaway is this: the future of social media isn't set in stone.
Right. It's not something that's just happening to us.
We have a choice.
Well,
we can choose the platforms that we want to support.
And we can demand better from the companies that control these spaces.
So think about it. What kind of online experience do you want?
What are you looking for in a platform?
Are you willing to be part of building something new, something better?
Because the answers to those questions will shape the future of our digital world.
Sound the alarm. I'm coming up. We'll have a ball. I'm sweet like a buttercup. You're a puppy dog. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.